He wants to be a dictator. He worships someone like Putin, and he sees the power he has and wants the same power in the United States.
Chicago, Baltimore, and some other cities under Democratic control are bracing for the possible arrival of the US National Guard. The Trump administration has already deployed troops in Washington, D.C., claiming that they were needed to crack down on crime in the city. There are now believed to be more than 2,000 soldiers patrolling the streets, though local reports say that they're doing less crime fighting and even some cleaning up. Meghan Hays is a former special assistant to Joe Biden and a Democratic strategist. Hello to you, Meghan.
Hi, how are you?
What do you make of the deployment of the National Guard? We've seen it in Los Angeles, and now we've seen it in the nation's capital.
I live in Washington, D.C. I've lived here off and on for 20 years. I think that there's a crime problem in D.C. for sure. I'm not sure that sending the National Guard has done much. They've been seen on the mall picking up trash. They've been doing, standing outside of Union Station, taking photos with tourists, quite frankly. They're not being deployed into areas with high crime. There's also some more nuance to it. There's been a $1 billion removed from the budget that Congress took away from DC that could have been going into programs to hire more police officers to do this a different way. And then they can only be here for 30 days. So then what happens? What happens in 30 days? What happens when the National Guard pulls out and Trump has moved on to a different city? The crime will return and we still have no answers and we have no ability to help defeat the crime. It is, and in full disclosure, it is falling from where it was a couple of years ago. It is decreased a lot. A lot of the statistics show that, but there's no plan. This is all theater. So it's disappointing because I do think that some of these cities have crime problems, but this isn't the way to go about combating them.
If that's so, why do you think they were deployed? What really was the message which Donald Trump wanted to send to Washington, D.C., which has to be said is a heavily Democratic city?
That he is in control and he will have control over all of these cities and that he wants to exert his authority and he doesn't care if it's unconstitutional. DC is a little bit different because of it's not actually technically a state, but when you start moving out of DC, it is unconstitutional to deputize the National Guard to do local law enforcement and domestic law enforcement activities. So it becomes, he's defying the Constitution. He wants to exert control. He needs to hit his quota for immigration. So he is doing everything he can to round up more people to deport them in any way possible.
How is it unconstitutional? What's the National Guard meant to be for?
The National Guard is meant to be deployed into cities to help with disaster relief, crowd control. They are not to be deputized to do domestic law enforcement. It's against the Insurrection Act is the only way that you can deputize the military to do domestic law enforcement. Our law enforcement activities with our military is done abroad. It's not done on our own soil.
If it's unconstitutional, how's the president got away with it?
Because who's going to stop him? You can file lawsuits, but by the time the lawsuits go through the court system, he already has the National Guard deployed. He already has his federal agents deployed into these cities. So there's a lag with the courts versus what his actual actions are.
And do you think he would obey the courts even if they did rule against him?
If past his prologue in the last couple of months, 6 months that he's been in office, no, because he's done a lot of things that are unconstitutional that are now being stopped within the courts. But the people have already been deported, for instance. Tariffs have already been enacted on a lot of different countries, and all these things are being, are going through the court system now.
It does seem a little bit as if, political opposition, and it was a close election result between the Republicans and the Democrats, that political opposition seems to be incredibly weak in the United States right now.
It's really challenging when one party has control of the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the court system. So it's extremely challenging to put up an actual fight. All you can do is use your words. So you see people like Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. He has waged a Twitter war, basically, or an X war against him and creating a lot of buzz that way. The different governors like J.B. Pritzker, who's the governor of Illinois, has really been very forward in saying, we don't want the National Guard here. We don't need federal deputies here. The mayors of these cities, the mayor in Chicago, the mayor in Baltimore, have all really been very forceful, but there's really very little that people can do when you don't have control of any part of our government.
And How would you describe the reaction within Washington, D.C. to this deployment? You yourself said that you felt that it had a marginal impact on the level of crime, which, as I understand it, had been going down anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that people, it's you. I think people realize that there's a crime problem. Washington, D.C. is overwhelmingly Democratic. Only about 700,000 people live in the District of Columbia. I think that people have a problem with that the National Guard and the federal law enforcement agents aren't being deployed to places where there are actual crime. They're being deployed to places like the National Mall, which is largely tourist, which is someplace that people go during the day to walk around and see monuments. So it's the way that they're doing it is very theatrical and it's made for a reality show rather than actually solving the problem. And I think that's what I have a problem with. And I think most people in the district have a problem with.
I mean, I've lived in the district myself several times for long periods, and one of the features about it is that it's a major city for African Americans, as indeed is Baltimore that Donald Trump has talked about. Do you think there is a kind of racial message being sent out by the president here?
I mean, I don't think so. I think that this is just, it's being theatrical. He is trying to figure out ways to take control of different things and to assert power
But he's choosing cities where there's a significant African American population, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that some of his policies with immigration and some other things are extremely racist. It's hard for me to say that that's the crux of what he is trying to do. I think that the overarching issue or the overarching thing that he is trying to do is assert power and control, and he is trying to become a dictator. He wants to be a dictator. He worships someone like Putin, and he sees the power he has and wants the same power in the United States.
So, what you feel that if he's trying to turn into a dictator, that he may not be there for just 4 years?
No, I think he'll be. I don't think he'll be here longer than 4 years. I don't think our government and our laws will allow that. He's also aging rapidly as the job, as we've seen with many presidents, takes its toll. So I don't necessarily think that he will be here longer than the 4 years. I don't think he has the power to change the Constitution.
But how do you think the United States will be left at the end of that 4-year term?
I mean, he is dismantling a lot of our institutions, like the CDC, which is our public health and disease center. He's trying to dismantle our federal banking reserve, which is, the basis for our economic policies here. So he's doing a lot of dismantling that's going to be hard to put back together and will take many years to put back together. So it is worrisome that only after 7 months, I guess, that he's been the president, that we've seen so much change in the way our legislative branch is working, the way our federal government is working. And so it is worrisome that there are going to be things that we will not be able to put back together.
And how do you see the Democratic challenge? Obviously, we've got the midterm elections coming up, and then there'll be a presidential election. Is anyone emerging as a possible next Democratic president?
I think a lot of people are making noise to be the next nominee for president, but I don't think that we'll actually know who's going to rise to the top in that situation until after the midterms. I think Democrats are showing a lot of strength in a lot of local elections. The Democrats in Iowa just won a special election in a district that trends was plus 10 for Trump, and they won by 10 points. So to see that sort of shift and so close to an actual election that Trump was on in a deep red state is pretty remarkable. Democrats have been outperforming, and I think it's something like 37, either winning or outperforming in 37 special elections since the November election. So that's positive. All politics are local. I think when people start to see some of these actions in their own communities, it really turns them off. And whether or not they believe they're a Democrat or a Republican, they don't like that that Donald Trump is just completely disregarding the law and has no respect for our Constitution or our laws.
One person who is attracting a lot of attention is Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. Would you like to see him as the next Democratic nominee?
I am originally from California, so I have a soft spot for Gavin Newsom. But I am not sure that he is the right answer. I think he is the right answer right now to help sort of energize the base and energize the Democratic Party with how he is rising on this. I'm not sure that he is the answer. I think that California has a different electorate than the rest of the country, but we'll see. I mean, anything is literally better than what we have right now.
Meghan Hays, thank you very much indeed for joining us, giving us a democratic perspective on what's happening in Washington, D.C.